The movie opens up with a short narration about the protagonist, Zhou Lin. She is generous and loves to help her friends in any way possible. It is shown that she fights for her friends and provides them with candies, even though she has to steal them from her own family store. The scene then fast forwards a few years, and now Zhou has started attending high school. Despite growing in age and size, she still behaves like a child and hates studying. Zhou only likes to spend time with her friends and eat all the time. She sleeps during classes and believes that she will just look after her parents' store if she fails. However, her mother doesn't want this. She wants Zhou to study hard and get good grades. She frequently asks her to study like the guy living across the street, Fang, who is also the topper of her class. Moving on to Fang, he is a nerdy guy who is very passionate about studying and always carries a red pen in his pocket. He knows nothing other than studying till midnight and getting good grades on exams. He is considered ugly and also does not have a girlfriend. While Zhou is caught watching TV at night, her mother grabs her by the hair and tells her to continue reading till the light in Fang's room turns off. Because of this, Zhou gets in trouble as Fang studies late into the night and she is unable to cope. Fed up, she plans to disturb Fang's concentration once and for all. For this, she writes a letter to a beautiful girl in their classroom, Ting, under Fang's name. She believes that if he falls in love with the girl, then he will turn his lights off faster. At school, Zhou notices Fang and Ting looking at each other and assumes that her plan worked. Surprisingly, at night when she peeks at Fang's room, she becomes elated to see the lights turned off. She dances in joy and enjoys her freedom with her friends. But this lasts only a week because Ting changes schools and Fang again starts studying late nights, making Zhou upset. She is then forced to study by her mother once again. However, due to the late-night study routine, Zhou manages to get good marks on her entrance exam for college. She mentions that despite Fang getting an opportunity to study at the prestigious China Eastern University, he got himself enrolled in the Department of Animal Husbandry with her. In the next scene, Zhou and Fang travel by train to the university they were assigned to. All this time, Zhou is curious about why Fang chose a department like animal husbandry when he has no interest in it. Later, when the two reach the university, Zhou dances in excitement and nearly falls to the ground. Luckily, one of the handsome and smart boys of the university, Xiao, grabs her in time. Zhou falls for Xiao's charms on their first meeting, and seeing the two talk, Fang gets jealous. Before they depart, Xiao asks Zhou to hang out whenever she has some free time. After this, she goes straight to her hostel room and introduces herself to her roommates. The next day, Zhou and her roommates wander around the college and collect their course books. Right then, Fang notices Ting walking towards him and drops his books. Here, we learn that Ting also got enrolled in the same college and that she still likes Fang. However, he doesn't even interact with her and heads straight to his classroom. Later, when the whole classroom is on their annual farm visit, Fang feels suffocated because of the awful smell of animal waste. None of the students except for Zhou seem really interested in the study, as they are sure that they will change the department after 2 years. The scene then shifts to the freshman welcome ceremony, where Zhou bumps into Xiao. It is clear that he has started liking her, so he invites Zhou to watch his performance and cheer for him. Later, Fang pulls Zhou to sit beside him, compelling Ting to take a seat behind them. Soon, Xiao comes on the stage and puts on a great performance. Zhou cheers for him at the top of her lungs, but this only makes Fang jealous, so he pulls her closer. When Zhou asks what he's doing, Fang replies that she is his girlfriend. Hearing this, Zhou, who was drinking juice, spits it out on his face and looks in bewilderment. After the ceremony is over, Zhou drags Fang outside the hall and asks why he acted so weird earlier. However, he doesn't reply and simply walks away, leaving her confused. Later at night in her room, Zhou can't sleep, so she approaches Ting's best friend, Shuji. She then asks her about Ting and Fang's past relationship. After hearing the entire story, Zhou assumes that Ting left Fang because of his ugly looks and decides to get them back together as a couple. She believes that it's all her fault and that she needs to make it right. The following day, as Zhou is trying to formulate some plans, Xiao approaches her and asks if she is really Fang's girlfriend. Zhou instantly replies with a no and clears that they are not in a relationship. Xiao then tells her that a cute girl like her should be his girlfriend. Later, Zhou meets with Ting and tells her that Fang still likes her. She also explains that she and Fang are just friends and have no serious relationship going on between them. The revelation makes Ting so happy that she invites Zhou to her birthday party, which is happening the next week. Shortly after, Zhou meets up with Fang and asks him to attend the birthday party with her. The latter wants to study, but since his subject is boring, he agrees. Before parting ways, Zhou asks Fang to change his appearance so that he can impress everyone at the party. Unbeknownst to him, Zhou is planning to use this birthday party to help Fang and Ruting get closer and resume their relationship. Later in the evening, we see Fang returning to his room with Zhou after doing a lot of shopping. On their way, they notice a biker driving away after hitting an elderly man who was trying to cross the road. Leaving Fang to take care of the injured man, Zhou runs behind the biker and manages to capture him by hitting him with her bag. In the next scene, the three are at the police station trying to solve the matter. However, the biker still misbehaves with Zhou and curses at her. Right then, his father arrives and takes him away, promising to pay all the damage and hospital bills. While the father and son duo are walking away, Zhou yells at the father for failing to teach his son a good lesson about humanity. The father doesn't respond, he simply stares at Zhou and walks out of the station. After the incident, the two return to their hostel but realize that all the gates have been closed. So they are compelled to spend the night at Zhou's brother's apartment. During this time, Zhou asks Fang about the red pen he always carries in his pocket. The latter replies that there is a special reason, but he does not disclose it. Next, all the students are given a rabbit to make a live report on. They are asked to look after the rabbit and feed it on time. As most of the students are planning to switch departments, they hesitate to comply, and seeing Zhou treating a rabbit with so much love and care, they ask her to look after their rabbits too. At first, Zhou refuses, but when all her classmates plead with her for help, she agrees. She then approaches Fang with her rabbit, but as soon as he sees the animal, he passes out. Here, we learn that Fang doesn't like rabbits and has an allergy to fur and feathers. Later, when he regains consciousness, he just hugs Zhou tightly and tells her about the allergy. Zhou also comforts him and helps him calm down. The scene then shifts to Ruting's birthday party where everyone can be seen dancing and drinking. Zhou is also there, talking with Xiao. Right then, Fang enters the party with his new look, making everyone surprised. All the girls cannot take their eyes off it. Fang walks straight to Ruting, wishes her a happy birthday, and gives her a present. She requests a dance from him, but Fang tells her that it's his first dance party, so he wants to dance with his girlfriend. Saying this, he approaches Zhou, who is completely drunk. He then starts dancing with her and even kisses her in front of everyone. The following morning, Zhou wakes up in Fang's apartment and remembers everything that happened the previous night at the party. She immediately brushes her teeth and goes to the university to meet Fang. Once they meet, she yells at him for misbehaving with her and warns him to go away. The outburst breaks Fang's heart, and he walks away from there without replying a word. Next, while Fang is making notes sitting in the park, Ruting approaches him and apologizes for leaving him previously without informing him. She also asks him if they can be friends, to which Fang agrees. After this, the two begin spending time together, and seeing them, Zhou starts getting jealous. One rainy day, Zhou goes to feed the animals and finds that her rabbit is ill. She immediately calls Fang and asks for his help. Despite having an allergy to fur and feathers, Fang cannot see Zhou crying and enters the farm to look after the rabbit. He supplies some glucose and gets the rabbit back on its feet. Because of this, Zhou becomes very happy and she cannot stop thanking Fang. Later, we see Ruting talking to her friends in the washroom, mentioning that she doesn't like Fang, but just loves to play with his feelings. Unbeknownst to her, Zhou is also in the washroom and has heard everything that she said. She then belittles Ruting for her evil nature and walks away. Back in the classroom, the professor informs the students that the rabbits they were looking after will need to be euthanized, as they have no further lab tests remaining. Hearing this, Zhou raises her voice and tells the professor that they can give the rabbits to the person who wants to adopt them rather than euthanize them. Unfortunately, the professor only gets angry and challenges her to persuade other students to take part in her plan. For a while, the whole class remains silent, but soon, Ruting stands up and tells the professor that she supports Zhou. Zhou has no idea why Ruting is helping her, so she asks her the same. Ruting replies that she wants Zhou to stay away from Fang and stop talking to him. As soon as Zhou hears this, she gets enraged and walks away. To her dismay, when she returns after a while, she notices Fang hugging Ruting and assumes that they have now reconciled. The next day, Zhou visits the animal farm and drives away after putting all of the rabbits in her pickup truck. Shortly after, Fang gets worried and begins searching for her around the university. After watching the CCTV footage of Zhou carrying away the rabbits, Fang remembers her favorite place and immediately heads toward it. In the following scene, Fang arrives at the place in time and notices Zhou walking towards the ocean. He assumes that she is about to end herself, so he yells at her after pulling her out of the ocean. Enraged, Zhou tells him that she was just trying to get her shoe back from the water. She also asks Fang to stop interfering in her life. Unable to keep the secret any longer, he finally confesses his love for Zhou and reveals she is the reason he always carries a red pen. He tells Zhou that she gave him the pen during their childhood, and since then, he has liked her. He also says that he used to keep his bedroom lights on so that Zhou would study and get good grades. Furthermore, he joined the animal husbandry department so that he could be with her. Hearing all this, Zhou gets emotional and kisses him. In the last scene, we see the two at the university office, where the officials have decided to suspend Zhou for taking away the rabbits without permission. Fortunately, all the other classmates stand up for Zhou and threaten to quit if she is expelled. Having no choice left, the officials forgive Zhou and include her in the classroom. The movie ends as the class celebrates this victory by hugging Zhou.